Welcome back to the show. I had prepped for this for so long. I had prepped like staring in front of the camera and saying, welcome back to the show for so long. And I think I've done this multiple times. But you know what? At this point, I'm just going to keep the laugh in there and keep this show going because the energy's here and I'm going to try and keep it up here. This is the third official episode of the GoodNight Take One podcast. My friend actually asked me as of recent because it is called GoodNight Take One. Is it a late night podcast or is it just a normal podcast because you post your episodes during the day? And I said yes, because I don't really know. This was not really well planned out. I just kind of went with some ideas and thought it was cool, and we'll see if it actually does turn out. Thank you for listening to the show, for the 12 subscribers on YouTube, and for the very few people who listen to us on Spotify. I appreciate anyone and everyone who listens to this show, and I'm also kind of just realizing my setup right now. I have alcohol in the background, and I have coffee that I'm holding in my hand, so apparently my body is just going to take an entire trip this evening of getting from very excited from the very beginning and then a little more relaxed as the night goes along. I'm going to grab my GoodNight Take One thing and go ahead and take one and start this podcast. So, a few things came out of this week. Actually, only really one thing of note came out this week. The Obi Wan Kenobi trailer has dropped, and there's lots of mixed reactions to it. Actually, I say that because there has been a lot of mixed reactions to a lot of Star Wars material as of recent. But I feel like for this, so I'm used to saying it, but I feel like for this specific thing, it's very positive. I feel like this trailer's been getting a lot of good reaction from people, and that's great that everyone has a really good consensus about everything. I think for the vast majority of the time, the trailers for Star Wars have been great, so that doesn't necessarily mean we're going to get the greatest show on planet Earth. It just means that a trailer is going to be good. For instance, a lot of Michael Bay trailers look really awesome and really stylized and really cool. Most of his movies suck, by the way, so this is going to be a complete unaware. Also, later we're going to be talking about the Halo series, the Halo TV trailer that dropped 2 weeks ago, I think. I think it's like 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago at this point. I think it's 3 weeks ago. Anyway, it's further off. I want to have some thoughts about that. But first, let's talk about the Obi Wan Kenobi trailer that dropped. So we've been getting very little bits of information about this show, and I guess, because I talked to some of my people last time, it's a good thing, because they are doing a good job of building the hype for this series. There's not been a lot of release. There's been a few pictures released, literally the day after the trailer was released. And before then, we got a promo, a poster, and casting. It's pretty much it. It's all we got from that. But I will say, the hype is real because, I said before on the previous podcast, this has the potential to be the best Star Wars material, at least TV series, that has been out there for a very long time, and specifically anything that Disney has produced. So, I say that with caution because, similar to a lot of things that has come out of Hollywood, do not underestimate Disney's power and ability to screw something up. They did it with the Star Wars trilogy that they produced. They did it with a few of their movies, and they've done it a few times since. Now, I'm not going to be 100% negative and say that everything that Disney has released has been total garbage. I am going to say that a lot of it has been, and that I would say that for a lot of it, Disney does not know how to control the Star Wars brand, and by that I mean it doesn't understand the characters, what made them special, and why the fans love them. It's Disney, and it's also a production company. That's what it's supposed to do. We're supposed to make money off it. I understand that Disney needs to profit off Star Wars in order to make Star Wars content. That is 100% understandable. But that does come at the risk of it treating characters in Star Wars lore as the bare minimum, not giving them the characteristics or time and consideration in making their characters in shows or TV series believable and true to the fans. The fans, being the experts in these characters because they grew up with these characters, know who these characters are by heart. They know these characters, they know how they live, talk, and breathe, and sometimes the studios look past that and see the dollar symbols instead. I'm not saying that Disney has been faulty every time. There have been some great decisions that they made, but I'm saying that they have been faulted in the past. So I'll get into that later on, and I'll get into my negative stuff later on, but let's talk about the positives that this trailer has been bringing out, because there is a ton of positives that the trailer has been giving us. First and foremost, everything looks great. It's Disney. They have the money to do this, so it shouldn't be a huge shocker that this trailer looks great, and that we shouldn't give it for granted that this is going to be a great show because of the quality that we're being given. But I will say, this is the first Star Wars trailer in a very long time that has felt epic, and that is mostly due to the fact that, well, it's mostly due to two things. One, it's because of the story and because of the implications of this story. It's a very tense story. It's going to be a very nail-biting story. It's going to be a story riddled with tension because of what Obi-Wan is doing. He's hiding from the Inquisitors, he's hiding from the Empire, and he's hiding from Darth Vader, and he is very, very, very much outnumbered and outgunned, and all the odds are against him. All the odds are against him in this show. The trailer very much shows that evil has won, and there is no room for good to triumph. The second reason is, the most obvious reason, Duel of Fates is playing in this thing. Automatically, and again, Duel of the Fates does not automatically mean that this trailer and or TV series is going to be amazing, but it does mean that it shows some serious quality. If this means anything, and I did talk about this in my last podcast, the Duel of the Fates being played in this trailer shows some continuity with the prequel trilogy. And for the prequel trilogy, what the Duel of Fates meant in The Phantom Menace was the duel of Anakin Skywalker, the fate of Anakin Skywalker. When Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon Jinn were dueling with Darth Maul, it was over the fate of Anakin Skywalker and what was eventually going to happen to the galaxy. This is essentially the same thing. Obi-Wan Kenobi is essentially facing off against the Inquisitors and Darth Vader for the fate of Luke Skywalker. This is the duel of the fates for Luke Skywalker now instead of Anakin Skywalker. So I like that, and if that was the intention, wonderful, great job. Now that 100% could just be played in the trailer just because that's a recognizable song, the fans know this song, and they're playing it because they know it's going to get a reaction. That's 100% possible. But if that is the case, though, good job regardless, because it is a great song. We're going off-world. I know that... here's what I mean by that. Obi-Wan Kenobi obviously is going to be on Tatooine. That's where we're going to be seeing him. That's where we left him off in Revenge of the Sith. He's going to be on Tatooine looking after Luke. That much is very clear. But we show that he also goes off-world, so he leaves Luke for a time. Now, I feel like a lot of people had an issue with that and are going to have an issue with that because it may screw with the continuity that we did know of Obi-Wan Kenobi, that he lived a reclusive life on Tatooine. Now, I had addressed this in the previous podcast. If he goes off-world, it is because there is a potential lead that is bringing someone or the Empire to Obi-Wan Kenobi. If that happens, they are this close to finding Luke Skywalker. So, if Obi-Wan has a reason to go off-world, he's going to go off-world. If he needs to bring everyone away from him, if he's bringing attention to himself, he's going to go off-world. I feel like there's going to be a reason for that. I really don't feel like that's going to be a big issue in the series if that's the case. I don't think Obi-Wan going off-world is a continuity killer. At the same ways, I don't believe that Darth Vader dueling Obi-Wan Kenobi is a continuity killer. I don't necessarily think these are continuity killers. I think that there are ways you can work around it. It just depends if Disney is going to weave it in cleverly or just really do lazy writing and say, we want him off-world because of reasons. Let's talk about characters in this. So we see Obi-Wan Kenobi. We see that he's clearly going through some rough patches because he's all in the grime. He's all... working probably potentially in slave labor. He's potentially working in camps or just anything that he can do on Tatooine. Potentially has Rey's job in The Force Awakens. Potentially is just a scavenger and stuff like that. And we have a new Inquisitor. I just don't know who she is. But clearly, I don't know 100% everything about this Inquisitor. Is she a new Inquisitor? Or is she someone that's been previously set up? I never saw her in Rebels, though I didn't finish Rebels because Rebels sucks. If that offends you, that is unfortunate. It's not the Clone Wars. Even if you like Rebels, you can't say that it's better than the Clone Wars. Not a lot of things are better than the Clone Wars. Now, let's bring up the obvious fact in this trailer. We're missing a certain person in this trailer except for a brief breathing at the end. Darth Vader is not in this trailer. I don't think that's a bad thing because I feel like, again, with the marketing that we've been receiving with this series so far, we haven't received a lot of information. I think that's a good thing. Again, they could be building up to something completely mediocre, or they could be building up to something really awesome. And again, with the fact that we're going to be getting Vader and Kenobi dueling again, this has the potential to be awesome. But we have not received any images of Vader yet. I mean, visual images. We've received a postcard image of Vader, but it's It reveals nothing. He's in his bacta tank. It really doesn't reveal anything. There's nothing much you can really talk about. We all know that Darth Vader has a bacta tank. We all know that Darth Vader has to take a bath in his little skinny dip armless form in order to relax and somewhat survive. There needs to be some payoff, though. So Vader is not going to be in the series until Episode 3. Or after Episode 3. I believe it's after Episode 3. I'm going to take that back, reverse it, go back in time. I said after Episode 3. We're probably going to get this new Inquisitor for the vast majority of that time until we get Darth Vader. So we'll have a slow reveal to Darth Vader. Similar in Rebels, where he only came in at the end of Season 1 and was revealed after that. There's an image in this that I don't know this location. The Inquisitor ship is approaching, and please somebody comment down below if they actually know where this place is. I would love to know. There's a building that the Inquisitor ship is approaching in the trailer. It's not Vader's castle. A lot of people have said that it's Vader's castle. I don't think it is, because Vader's castle is located on Mustafar, and this place is, covered in water. It's not Vader's castle, unless he has multiple castles. I don't think he does. I think he has the one castle. There's emotional reason for Vader to have that castle. It's perched right above the place where he became Darth Vader, where Obi-Wan Kenobi beat him, thus filling him with rage, and Darth Vader feeds on that rage all the time, which makes sense why he would have his castle on Mustafar. So I don't think he has multiple castles. I guess this is the Inquisitor hideout, which in that case, I guess the architect who built both Darth Vader and the Inquisitor's castle was the same. So let's talk about another controversial thing that's in this trailer that a lot of people have been having a problem with, and that's been consistent throughout this show and the book of Boba Fett. The design of the Grand Inquisitor. Now, the Grand Inquisitor is in this trailer, and to be honest with you, I think he looks fine. Now, the issues that some people are having with this is that he is very different from his animated form, and that he doesn't have a big head, and that people have brought an image from Revenge of the Sith as a creature that's the same thing as the Grand Inquisitor, and he has a bigger head. I agree with it, but I also think it's not something to lose your mind about. I can be negative on Disney and Star Wars all the time because they've given me a reason to be negative, but I'll also give them slack where it needs. When you bring animated characters from the Clone Wars to live action, there's going to be some changes. We all know this, and I also understand if fans get enraged or angry that there are certain characteristics in a character or of a character that are not properly translated from animated form or cartoon form to live action. I get that. That being said, let's bring up an example of Ahsoka Tano that was in The Mandalorian. Now, she doesn't 100% match her description at all. If we're going to go from what we see in the Clone Wars, her braids or her hair or whatever you call that thing on her head, I'm just calling it a giant hat. I'm going to call it a sombrero for aliens. If we're going by the canon details in the Clone Wars, that thing should be all the way down to her feet at this point. We all remember Shak Ti from Revenge of the Sith, or from a deleted scene of Revenge of the Sith, but we all do remember her in the Clone Wars. Her braids, or sombrero for aliens, was all the way down to her feet. It was very, very long. So as that species gets older, that thing continues to get to enlarge. But it didn't for Ahsoka, because she's the oldest we've ever seen in The Mandalorian, and yet her braids are down to here. The reason that was done, it was for Rosario Dawson's movement. They wanted her fluid movement. They didn't want her to struggle with all the weight of that extra crap on her head, and I completely get that. The reason that a lot of people are giving that a pass is because the betrayal that Rosario Dawson gives in that series is spot on and awesome. Her introduction is awesome. Her characterizations for Ahsoka are awesome, and the fact that she's older and still portrays Ahsoka in that mature fashion and would seem that would be something that that character would continue to progress as, I feel like that's good, and I feel like the fans have been very accepting of that. There have been a few people that have pointed out the fact that those things should be a whole lot longer, but it's not something that's been a problem without that's been a huge issue. Let's talk about Cad Bane, a more recent issue. A lot of people had an issue with him and his live-action appearance. A lot of people had an issue with his color, with how he talks, with how skinny he is, and a few of his facial features changing from live-action. That is another thing that I honestly don't have a problem with. I think he looks great in live-action, and I think that the transition from him in cartoon form to live-action form makes 100% sense, especially due to the fact that he is an older person now, like in his hundreds old, like 180 something. I'm sure I'm getting that wrong or something, and feel free to comment or correct me down below, but I do believe 100% that his depiction in the Book of Boba Fett was awesome, and then one of the few great things about that show. Not as much with Ahsoka, but more or less with Cad Bane, people had an issue, and people definitely have an issue with the Grand Inquisitor and the fact that his facial features don't exactly match his species. I want to see the show before I give a judgment on that. To be honest with you, if his character is perfect and his performance is perfect and the way they portray him in the series is intimidating and perfect, or at least really good at the very best, then I'm not going to have an issue with it. I really don't have a huge issue with it right now. I don't have a massive issue with the fact that his head isn't a little bigger or that his design isn't better. I don't think it's perfect, to be honest with you. I'm in agreement. I understand why people are upset, but I also don't think it's something to write home about. So we'll see what happens with that. Looks great. I really don't have a huge issue with the trailer. I think the trailer is actually wonderful. If I haven't been praising the trailer properly, I do want to give praise to the trailer. I think it's really good. And again, it's the two issues that I think I have and that every single Star Wars fan has, and I'll get to them now. I'm sure that people have noticed so far that I'm a little cynical. That's just who I am personally. I'm sorry if you're a very hopeful and optimistic person and you're listening to me. I'm sorry, but I can be a little cynical when it comes to Star Wars, and for good reason. I witnessed the sequel trilogy. Look, I want this series to be good. I want this series to be great. I said before, this has the potential to be the best Star Wars material that Disney has produced and some of the best Star Wars material out there. So here are the two things that Disney really needs to get right. Continuity. They need to get that I can't stress you enough. The biggest concern that everybody had in this series was that Disney was going to screw up continuity and they were going to change continuity to fit whatever story they wanted to tell. I'm not a fan of that. No fan is a fan of that. Every fan has been living Star Wars, breathing Star Wars since they were a kid. Even casual fans. I'm not the die-hard fan. I know a lot about Star Wars. I don't know everything about Star Wars, but even casual fans know about Star Wars, it feels like, more than Disney sometimes. And I do say, because I had a conversation with my brother about this a while back, and he's way more pessimistic than I am. I do believe that they could knock this out of the park, because this is a story that I believe that a lot of people want to hear. And I'm going to go off track so easily today. So the second point, I'm going to look at you, Jeff. I'm going to look in the eyes of Jeff, and he will motivate me in continuing this. Hey, Jeff, did I call you Jeff? I named you Larry last time. This is not what I'm screwing on my own continuity for the podcast, and I'm only 3 episodes in. You know what? Let's make this official. We're changing your name to Jeff. No, I can't change your name to Jeff. It's Larry. Nope, we're changing back to Larry. I think I just went through a crisis with my skull. For those of you listening on Spotify, I'm talking about my saber-toothed skull. I'm gonna have him look at me, so I get motivated by his glance and his threatening eyes. He has no eyes. So the second thing they need to get, other than continuity, is the character of Obi Wan Kenobi and Darth Vader. Now, I'm saying this as a fan. And I'm saying this, I feel like, for the Star Wars community. I'm never going to say I speak for a group of people, but in this specific instance, I feel like the entirety of the Star Wars community feels the same way. And that is, you can't screw up the character of Obi Wan Kenobi. We as fans know who Obi Wan Kenobi is. We as fans 100% know who Darth Vader is. We know their motivations, we know their struggles, and we've seen it progress for years to come. I feel like of all the characters in all of Star Wars, Han Solo, Luke Skywalker, Obi-Wan Kenobi, and Darth Vader are ranking at the top of the most popular, followed very closely by Ahsoka Tano and a few of the other ones. We know how these characters act, and if you screw them up, we're not going to appreciate that. We're going to notice if you play a card that's not correct for this character. Evidence number 1, and I apologize for bringing this up again, The Last Jedi. Luke Skywalker, that was not Luke Skywalker. There's a reason why a lot of people call him Jake Skywalker. When Mark Hamill himself called him Jake Skywalker. This is not my Luke Skywalker. And for a lot of fans, that's not Luke Skywalker. It really isn't. You can appreciate some of the changes. You can appreciate them trying to go in a different direction, but it fundamentally was not the character of Luke Skywalker. I can argue that every day, but let's go to a more recent example, because The Last Jedi has been talked to death. And even in the last podcast, I was kind of tired of talking about it. Boba Fett. I'm not the biggest fan of Boba Fett, but I do know a lot of people who love Boba Fett, and a lot of people have been saying, at least in my sphere, that was not Boba Fett. That was a weak side character. And I say side character because Boba Fett was a side character in his own series, or at least it felt like he was a side character in his own series. The fans know what these characters are. The fans know who these characters are, how they act, how they portrayed, and when you screw that up, they will notice. That's why there has been a lot of Star Wars material that has been widely not appreciated, because it takes the established characters and just says, nope, we're going to have them fit around the story that we want because we're too lazy writers who can't actually incorporate the character that everyone knows and bring them into a story and meld them in cohesively and coherently. Instead, we're going to make up a new character, Jake Skywalker, and meld him into the story that we want. I think from the direction that they seem to be taking Obi Wan Kenobi, someone who's dealing with a lot of suffering, someone who's dealing with a lot of guilt, the fact that he was the one who raised Anakin Skywalker, who trained Anakin Skywalker, and then all of this happened because of Anakin Skywalker, and he feels somewhat guilty of that. If they're going in that direction with Obi Wan Kenobi, of him dealing with his guilt, trying to make amends, and taking care of Luke Skywalker, then that's great. Obi-Wan Kenobi, if you look at him in the Clone Wars, even if you look at him in the freaking prequel trilogy, is a resilient Jedi, and he is stone cold in his Jedi ways. Why I'm saying this is because he has been through so much crap and has remained a faithful Jedi. You see all the times that Anakin Skywalker has been through crap, and he's been through a lot of crap. Suffering, he's seen death, he's seen destruction, and he has veered off to the dark side so many times. He has let his emotions control him. He has let his anger take over, but Obi-Wan Kenobi never did that. Even with Satine, if you've seen the Clone Wars, I'm going to spoil it for a second, but Satine, the love of Obi-Wan Kenobi's life, and yes, I believe that he actually did love this woman. She was killed in front of him. Not to mention that for years and years and years, it was obvious that Obi-Wan Kenobi loved this woman, and he never left the Jedi Order. Even when she was killed in front of him by Darth Maul, he did not go to the dark side. He did not revert to anger. He still stayed in the Jedi way, and for all these years, he still stayed in the Jedi way. You can show him struggle. You can show him be angry. You can show him maybe even lean into the dark side a little bit. But he cannot waver from the Jedi code. He cannot waver from the Jedi way, because Obi-Wan Kenobi is the truest form of a Jedi more than most Jedi. So, fingers crossed. Let's go on to a new topic. So, other than Star Wars, I love Halo. If we're talking about other sci-fi material, I very much am in love with Halo. I grew up with Halo. That was my favorite video game as a kid. In fact, it's still my favorite video game now. Halo Combat Evolved was awesome. Halo 2 was awesome. Halo 3 was awesome. Halo 4 was, it was okay. Halo 5 was balls, and Halo Infinite was awesome. And so for years, there was hints and rumors of a TV series being made. I think for a while there was a Peter Jackson, I sound like Sean Connery, Peter Jackson movie that was going to be made of Halo, but they never got the budget off the ground, and it seemed to be the same thing with all video game movies for a while, that there was never going to be a true adaptation because no one could ever get the budget they needed for those video game movies. But thanks to Sonic the Hedgehog, the masterpiece of modern day, I actually really do like that movie. I'm not even joking. I think thanks to that movie and potentially the Uncharted movie that came out, if that movie actually does make bank, I haven't been paying attention to that movie because I don't give a crap about Uncharted, but I hope that movie does make bank to prove the studios that video game movies do have a chance. The trailer came out a while back for the new Halo TV series. I believe it's produced by Steven Spielberg. Is that still a thing? I may be hesitant on that. I don't actually think that's a real thing anymore. For a while, I know that Steven Spielberg was involved in it, but I have no idea if he's still currently producing. That might be false. I feel like that would be in the marketing promotional material, so he probably isn't. I might regret saying this and delete it out after. So the trailer came out for the new TV series of Halo. It's not good. It's not good. It's not good. I have a lot of positives to say about the Obi-Wan Kenobi trailer. I don't have a lot of positives to say about this Halo trailer. I'm not very optimistic about this at all. In fact, I think it's gonna suck so bad. Okay, let me address the good things and let me address the fan reaction. I think the fan reaction has been the same as me. So we'll get to the good things. It's not good. It doesn't look good. It doesn't look like Halo. We'll get to the positives. We'll get to the positives. I can't stop talking about the bad things. So the good things. The production value is great. It looks great. Master Chief's suit looks great. Some of the things that we see with the Covenant look great. The ships look great. The graphics look great. The visuals look great. It looks like a better version of a lot of the trailers that we used to get of Halo back in the day. It looks good. That's it. That is freaking it. Do you think that maybe there'd be like a music cue that'd be cool in the trailer? You think there'd be like a character piece that'd be cool in the trailer? Not a freaking thing. Not at all. Not even a little bit. Oh my gosh, this trailer sucked. I know I'm late with this trailer reaction, and I know that I'm sure a lot of people have been giving their opinions on it, and then I am not one of those people that's prevalent to give their opinion, but dear heaven to Betsy, this trailer was terrible. Oh my gosh. So I will give them credit for only this. And even then, I'm going to backtrack in just a second. This series does not take place in the same universe that we are used to, meaning Halo, all the Halo games, this is not in that same universe. So all the games, that's a completely different continuity. Essentially, this is the multiverse of the Halo-averse or something like that. Video games are completely different from this series. This series is a completely made-up new continuity for this universe. And in that, I'm a little happier because that means when they screw this series up to a freaking T, which they 100% will, it will not affect the video game continuity that we know. So at least that. Let's start off with the first thing. And this is the biggest thing. Actually, it's not the biggest thing. It's the second biggest thing. Because, okay, it's Chief. The only thing that they got good in this trailer was like a small fight scene that we see of Chief. That looks pretty cool. And a few of Chief's suits and a few of the kinks in his suit look okay. But after that, that is not Chief. Oh my gosh, that's not Chief at all. His voice isn't... They couldn't get the original voice actor? He's wearing a mask. You couldn't get the original voice actor? What are you doing in your life? You couldn't. I don't even understand how you couldn't just bring him in. Did he say no? What was that? Did you approach him and say like, okay, we're going to do a Halo series? And he's like, okay, great. I am excited. I was happy that finally this series that everyone loves in video game form is finally being brought to the big screen. Show me the story, and then they showed him the story. Holy crap, that's not going to happen. I ain't voicing your crap. This is not Master Chief. And if this was a conscious choice by them to make the Chief a new character for their series, why? Why? We all know who Master Chief is. Why change that? Why make that different? Why, you stupid? It's not Master Chief's voice. It doesn't even feel like Master Chief. Here's the reason why it doesn't feel like Master Chief is because I think he says more lines in this trailer than he does throughout the entirety of the original trilogy. He speaks too much in this trailer. Master Chief is supposed to be a silent protagonist. He's supposed to be a do things first and then ask questions later kind of guy. He does not think about a lot of things. He just does them because he is a trained soldier. He knows exactly what to do in every situation, which is why in the video games you can have every single weapon from Covenant to human because he already knows what to do. He doesn't think. He just does things. That is it. They couldn't even get that right in the freaking trailer. They're going to screw it up. They're going to screw Chief up. The other thing they got wrong, I'm going to say this is the main thing they got wrong because they got Chief wrong, but you can almost cut corners with that. They screwed up Cortana. That's not Cortana. Oh dear God. They so screwed her up. It's so terrible. It's not even close to accurate. I want to say they got the original voice actor because I guess they realized they didn't have the voice actor for Chief and said, screw it. We'll get the original voice actor for Cortana, but make her look completely different. Oh gosh, it's so terrible. When Cortana, they introduce her for the first time in the trailer, the first image they show of Cortana is just false. The first time she comes onto screen, she says, "Hello, Master Chief. I'm Cortana." And then they show who she is. What the heck is that? That is not Cortana. That is some kind of imposter cosplayer. That wasn't even a correct cosplayer. They got some crappy materials that her mom made the night before and said, yeah, this is Cortana, honey. There you go. You can go out to the cosplay. You look like Cortana. You look so great, honey. I hope you have a great time. That's what that is. That is a cosplayer. That's not the real Cortana. That's someone who got a voice modulator to sound like Cortana and just got a really crappy, cheap costume and went into the series and said, hey, I'm Cortana, and then everyone threw a banana at her because it looks stupid. That is not who Cortana is. That is not in any way what Cortana looks like. I'm sure what the producers were thinking when they put that on screen, and everyone's going to be so excited to see Cortana. They're going to be seeing these legendary video game characters come into live action for the first time. When they see her on screen, they're going to be like, holy crap, it's Cortana. Except that's not the way they reacted at all. It's... And everyone has the same reaction. I am sure if you're a Halo fan, or at least a casual Halo fan, you know, and you've seen Cortana and you know what she looks like that is not Cortana. You got that 100% wrong. And maybe you could redeem it by keeping the same mannerisms, and she could be different, and you could always say that, that's not what she looked like in the video game form and whatever or whatnot and so on and so forth. And I know I literally just made the comparison with the Star Wars that bringing cartoon characters to real life is going to be different, and there's going to be some differentiations. Here is where that's a problem. This is a video game, and that is a cartoon. Clone Wars is animated in a way where everything is exaggerated. I'm sure every Star Wars fan has seen the meme where Count Dooku, and they compare the face of Count Dooku in the Clone Wars to him in real life, and it is stupid looking what he would look like in real life if he had that long face. It is stupid. Everything in that Clone Wars series is exaggerated to look a little more dramatic. That is not the art style of Halo. Halo is supposed to look a little more real. Halo is supposed to look like humans. In fact, as technology progressed on, it looked more and more and more real. So you can make that excuse with Halo. You can't make that excuse that bringing Cortana from a video game format to reality is going to look different, because that's not the case at all. And if anything, she would look more similar than she does in this show. Now, I know that in the more recent games, especially in Halo 4, that she has pretty much looks like a stripper. She is pretty much naked in the entirety of Halo 4. And I get that. I guess you're trying to be a little more conservative with how Cortana looks. I get that. That being said, that's not what Cortana looks like at all. I have no idea why they made her look like some kind of punk teenager on the street that is just trying to look cool for her boyfriend or her mom, or looking rebellious or whatever. She looks like it's not a phase mom kind of lady. It is ridiculous. It's so bad. Let's get into some other bad things about it, because it doesn't get better from here. I know this is a different continuity and things are going to look different, but why change things that are so clearly evident to the Halo trilogy? I don't understand why you would change. I don't understand why you would take place in a completely different timeline. It doesn't make any sense. The only reason that you could really even justify bringing Halo in a completely different timeline and not making a story that revolves around the original timeline is because your writers are so freaking lazy, they can't even let their imagination roam wild for a second. They can't form a story with the current Halo continuity. And I feel like if you are a writer with half an imagination or half a brain, you could do that. I feel like there's so many ways that you could weave a good story with Master Chief and Cortana into the current timeline of Halo. You could do that between Halo 1 and 2. There's definitely a time lapse, and I do know that there's a certain time period that jumps. You can make it that, or you can make it in. There's plenty of other things that you could do in between that, but for some reason, you decided that you wanted to make a completely different timeline. So that just seems like lazy writing, that you can't actually form a good story in the current continuity of Halo, that you would just take everything that was good and say, we're going to change that just because. And even if you're going to change it, even if you're going to do a different story, even if you have legitimate reason to create a new continuity for Halo, just so you can make a different story, that story better be great, and you better have the same, and you at least better have some kind of continuity with some of the characters, like Sergeant Johnson, Cortana, and Master Chief. Keep the same voices, keep the same look, keep the same tone. And that's not the thing at all. The tone is not Halo at all. You can arguably say that in Halo 4, 5, and 6, the tone is not the same at all from the originals. The originals, is a sci-fi, sure, for 100% sure, but it's also a military sci-fi. It has that real-world perspective, especially in Halo 2 when you're actually on Earth, and Halo 3 when you're on Earth. It feels like a military movie with sci-fi elements on it, with aliens invading Earth. That part of it keeps it grounded, and Halo 4 really strayed away from that. That's a few of the issues I have with Halo 4. And Halo Infinite arguably got back to that military sphere. So I appreciate that about Halo Infinite, and I actually do really love Halo Infinite for that. So I'll give him credit for that. But this series doesn't have that at all. It is mostly sci-fi. It doesn't feel very militarized. The military aspects in this all feel sci-fi'd up, in that the Marines don't look like Marines, the soldiers don't look like modern-day soldiers. The way that Halo combat evolves all the way through Halo 3 had all these soldiers still look like they were somewhat in reality, that humanized everybody and made everything feel a little more tangible. They didn't do that as they continued on, and I felt like they went the Bungie route instead. When they went the 343 route instead of the Bungie route, keeping the Marines more sci-fi oriented, where they have a bunch of gadgets and armor on everything, instead of keeping it more in the realm of Marines. And so the tone doesn't feel like Halo. And the music, you couldn't even get the music right. Halo music is so freaking iconic. If you hear that, even if you're not even a casual fan, I'm sure you recognize the theme of Halo. Everyone knows the theme, respects the theme, and loves the theme. And again, one of the other reasons that I love Halo Infinite is because if you reach certain marks, or like climb a mountain and hit a really high spot, the Halo theme plays, like the whole, and it like that hits you, and you know the Halo theme. And every time I play the old games and I hear the Halo theme, I immediately am brought back to a good time in my life, and everyone knows the Halo theme. That continuity, you could have kept that, because that's music, and you couldn't even keep that in the trailer. I forget the song that's playing in the trailer because I'm just really bad at my job. It's terrible. It feels like a 2000s trailer, like an early 2000s trailer, but not in a good way. There's so many things missing from the trailer, so many opportunities you can get. You can even get Captain Keyes or like Miranda in this. If they are in the trailer, they didn't really do a good job establishing them. Sergeant Johnson and all these characters that are freaking iconic. The Arbiter is not in this trailer. And if he's not in the series, man, I'm bummed out. I'm bumming myself out the more I continue to talk about this. And then in replace of all these characters that we actually do love, they're replacing with these new characters. I don't know why. I guess the reason that they changed the current Halo sphere was to bring all these new characters in. For what reason? What is it for? Do you want a diversity card? Did you just want to bring all these guys in there? Because if that's the case, Halo is diverse. One of the most powerful characters in all of Halo is a female. One of the most awesome characters in all of Halo is a black guy, Sergeant Johnson. Halo already is diverse. You even have different species. Arbiter is an alien. That's diversity for you. Are you just trying to bring in these new characters because Halo didn't have 100% diverse? Are we trying to do that? Which, if that's the case, I don't have a problem with diversity, but why change everything for it? I'm not even saying these guys are going to do a bad job. For all I know, all of these people are great actors and are going to do a really good job. But I won't care. And no Halo fan will care, because it's not Halo. It doesn't feel like Halo. And again, I'm going to say this the same way as I said with the Star Wars characters. All these Halo fans have grown up with Halo, and we know what Halo feels like. We know the Halo characters, and we know what feels like Halo. And clearly, you don't. If you're going to make a new continuity, at least keep that feeling of Halo. At least keep the vibe of Halo, because that's why we love these games. We love the idea of a live-action series, is because we want that feeling of Halo onto a big screen. If you're going to have a new continuity, keep that feeling, but it doesn't feel like you're doing that. Again, with the sci-fi look and the fact that you're trying to implement all these new characters in place of ones that were already established and awesome, and the fact that everyone loves these characters. Everyone loves Sergeant Johnson. Everyone loves Miranda. Everyone loves Cortana. Everyone loves Chief. Everyone loves these characters. But you're just replacing them with new ones. And that's the reason that you made a new continuity? It seems lazy. It seems like lazy writing. I have no faith. I really have. I do not think there is a way that this could bring it back. I really don't. And the only reason I'm ever going to be watching this truly is to bash it. Pretty much it. If this comes out and blows my mind, then I will be. But so be it. Great, good job. I was wrong, and I would very much be happy to say that I'm wrong. But okay, that is going to be it for me, ladies and gentlemen, because it's 10:30 and I want to watch a movie. And you gotta stop looking at me, my guy. My saber-tooth tiger's still staring at me. Go seek into the mic. Yeah. So I'm going to. That's it. My guy Ernesto, my friend, roll those credits.